Tell me what it's been like to get older and any advice or anything that you would like to pass on to future generations.
Well, first of all, we've been very fortunate in that we have stayed in shape, we've stayed healthy, and even with that, you can get sick and things can happen. But you know, I'm 75, Mom's turning 75, and we've maintained our health. We've also maintained a healthy perspective on life. When I turned 75 recently, it didn't mean anything to me as far as, oh, I'm getting old or anything like that. What means more to me is seeing friends that are getting Alzheimer's and, having knee replacements and hip replacements. And I feel very fortunate because that stuff, thank God, hasn't happened to me yet. The toughest thing for me has been that my skills in softball have deteriorated to a point where I almost find them unacceptable enough that I was going to retire. But then when I am out there, I still enjoy it so much that I'm just going to talk myself into the fact that you're older, you're not going to be as good, and I'm going to keep playing. But you know, I know it's trite to say, age is just a number because it's not. When you're old, and things happen to your body and things happen to your mind. But we've been very fortunate. Um, but I do think that we have friends who have never done anything as far as trying to exercise, trying to join anything, they're in a place where we have 200 clubs and a gym and everything else, and they sit in their house all the time and they don't do anything, and then they can't understand when they start having all these aches and pains and stuff like that. And I do think that you have to take care of yourself. And I think, if I was going to say a couple things to young people, I would say, get out there and live your life. Get out there and do stuff. The traveling is part of that too. Do something. Find something you like and enjoy. I don't care if it's just getting out every day and walking, because walking outside can be one of the nicest things you can do, one of the most relaxing things you can do. I know for a long time when Mom and I walked all the time, it wasn't for exercise. It was the only time we had to talk because we both worked. It was the only time of the day, that 3 hour walk, I mean, that 3 mile walk in the morning, when we could talk about the kids, the grandkids, what was happening at work, that kind of thing. And so walking, walking's good, but the whole idea is you only get one life. Try to enjoy it as much as you can. And so I think that's part of it. I also think that I know I don't want to say I'm frugal, but I'm conscious of our financial situation. And I think if I was a young person today, or if I was talking to a young person today, I would tell them, be conscious of saving for the future. That, spending and spending and spending sounds good. You're getting your immediate reward now, but there's so many bigger rewards you can get when you're old enough to retire that if you have the money, you can enjoy it. Um, I see, you know, I know some of our friends growing up always had the biggest house, the biggest car, whatever. Mom and I were always very conservative with our money. And it never hurt us to be conservative with our money, to not have the best car, the best house. Um, we might have been a little bit envious, but the bottom line is when we retired, we were able to do things that a lot of them, especially if they didn't have their health when they retired, couldn't do because they had already spent all their money and whatever. But I just think that, and it's a hard lesson to teach kids. Obviously, I mean they don't want to hear it. Everything is today. What's happening today? What's happening today? But I would tell them, save their money, take care of their bodies, because the time in life when you're really going to get to enjoy life is when you can retire, because you're going to be working for 40 some years, working, 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 working. And when you're done, you want to be healthy enough and wealthy enough to enjoy the next 20 years or whatever it is. I've been retired 13 years now, and they've been, in my mind, the most enjoyable part of my life. Not the best part of my life, because having kids and grandkids and stuff like that are the best part of my life. But the most enjoyable part of my life is getting to spend time with my wife, going places, seeing things, and doing things. And the only reason we're able to do that is all the money we saved as we were growing. We still enjoyed living as we were getting older, but again, we never had the biggest house of our friends. We never had the newest car of any of our friends. We never traveled as much as our friends, but we're getting to enjoy it now when we can, because these last 13 years have been fantastic. I mean, honestly, living in a place like this too was just the best decision we ever made. And when we moved here, we didn't come here with a big fat financial cushion to live here. We were prepared, which some people weren't. We knew that expenses were going to go up, cost of living was going to go up. We prepared for that. But to move into a place that had all these clubs and walking trails and softball and, everything we could possibly want. I always called it camp for adults. You want to be able to afford those things when you get older. And some people will and some people won't. But that's some advice that I would give them, because life can be wonderful even when you're older. And I know people look at 75, people that are 30 and 40 look at 75 and think, oh my gosh, that's so old. And I used to think that way. I don't feel any different today than I felt 20, 25 years ago. So.
You were also going to mention about being politically aware, you said.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, I think that it is happening today is younger people are getting politically aware. I would say have your own beliefs, read and watch the news, learn about the candidates you support or the politics you support. Be loyal to the candidates and the politics that you support, but be educated as far as the politics and the people that you support. Because in this country today, there are millions and millions of people that are supporting a person instead of policies and instead of morals and ethics and things like that. And they're not even, many of them are not even educated as to what that individual stands for and what that person can do to them, the impact it will have on them. And a lot of the people that actually voted for that person are now finding that they're getting hurt by that person's policies. So when it comes to politics, don't ignore it at a young age and just say, well, that's my parents' thing, and I'll just do what my parents believe. Find your own beliefs. It's like a religion. Politics is kind of like a religion, but it should be done with some knowledge and education of what your political beliefs are, and not just following the herd, even if the herd is a big herd. Do what you really believe morally, ethically, and politically, policy-wise.